The Hawai'i Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Kulule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. Let's wake up in the den. Kulule Agbayani, Paul Bracht. Happy Alooooha Friday. Woo! It is the weekend. Hope you guys are all up already. I'm kind of waking up. I did forget one of our cameras this morning at home. So as you guys know, usually our Alooooha Friday show is our YouTube show. So we record and we usually have two cameras set up, but one of the cameras I forgot at home, and so we just have one camera today. But you'll still be able to see Paul here and there as he's rocking his Nick shirt going on.
It's NBA free agency day, Koo. Opens up at noon Hawaii time,
which we will definitely get to, as we will probably the biggest guy we await on is there's a couple. There's like James Harden, Kyrie, to name a few. I think I'm having fun watching all the rumors about where James Harden is going to be, only because it concerns the Los Angeles Clippers, which, we have their games on this station, and from what I've been told, the Clippers are coming back to Hawaii this year. So it would be, and ironically, James Harden was here with the Rockets the last time the Clippers did their training in Hawaii. And
he just really likes Hawaii.
So, maybe the stars align a little bit. James Harden's coming back to Hawaii, but instead of a Rockets jersey, he'll be like donning a Clippers jersey. You never know.
Tinfoil hat Paul has a theory for you later when we talk about this.
All right. We'll definitely get into a lot of NBA talk, like I said. Actually, and today, Happy Rail Day, or excuse me, the Skyline.
BYOT, baby.
Even though everyone is like, why don't we just call it the rail so that it matches the bus and the rail? But they wanted to. And if you're gonna make it a new name, at least maybe call it something more Hawaiian. I don't know. The Skyline just sounds so like meh. All right.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more on that. It's like
just call it the rail. We have the bus and the rail. It would have been perfect branding.
It makes way more sense to have a unified branding of the insert vehicle here or transportation here. It just I don't know.
Nonetheless, after years and years of waiting, the rail opens up today at 2:00 p.m. with free rides through the 4th of July. So they're anticipating a lot of crowds. I definitely would have ridden the rail had it at least extended to where the original plan was, which is Ala Moana. I probably would have, taken a ride, maybe go to Waipahu. That would have been the dream. I was really excited that it was going to go to Ala Moana, because I think at the time when it was announced that it was going to be built, I was still living in Waipahu. So I was like, that's pretty cool. We can jump on the rail, go to Ala Moana, not have to worry about traffic. That's awesome. And then, as we know, things just got really, really bad. And now it stops at the stadium that will not have any sporting events or concerts anytime soon. So, at least you can ride it to the swap meet, which is pretty cool. That's about it. And it's
yeah, it'll be cooler eventually, but
But we're fun to see it. So if you guys can go on, there's 9 stations. They'll be open. I believe you can get some of your holo. When you do have to pay, though, you have to get those holo cards at one of the kiosks available. I think right now Zippy's is having a special where you can get the holo pack, and then you get a card that allows you to ride it. So, but bear with everyone. It seems like a lot of people are going to ride. I know the whole no restrooms thing has been an issue with a lot of people. I was thinking about that though. It's not like you have restrooms at every single bus stop, right? So, it's kind of, and it's not, again, the distance isn't very long with it only going to Halava and Kapolei. Just don't drink as much water or something. I don't know.
Plan accordingly,
yeah,
I guess.
Plan accordingly. But I know that's been a lot of issues. People take long bus rides. There's no restrooms on the bus. So, I don't know. That's not. Yeah.
That sounds like you're coping with the fact that there are no restrooms, Koo, and that's okay because BYOT, baby. Bring your own toilets.
I think because I usually, unless I really have to go, I usually never have to. Like when it's like public restrooms.
I was gonna say most people I know really have an issue using public restrooms as it is, and at least I know historically speaking, with what I have experienced, most rail stations, train stations, whatever, most public transportation stations like that do have public restrooms are not the type that you want to use. Not the type that you feel comfortable using. So, like, at the end of the day, it's almost like it wouldn't have it anyway.
Yeah, because when I think about it, I've done a pretty long, like, subway ride in New York, and I've never used the restroom, like, in the subway, or I never really had the urge that I can recall while I was on the ride. Because I've gotten, like, if you can remember, if you think, because you're from, like, well, that area and probably know, how long do you say is the ride from Manhattan, like, middle Manhattan, I guess, to Yankee Stadium? Because I've done that one. That's probably the longest.
It's still not anything crazy.
Yeah, but it's not short.
No,
right?
no,
so
no,
yeah,
no.
so that's how I imagine that's about the longest distance that it'll take from Kapolei to Halawa if you did the whole trip. Because I mean, you do have to account for the stopping, right?
Right.
So,
Well, that's
which
the big
is what the
thing,
subway
the
does.
stops.
So I'm thinking that's probably the longest is. Yeah, around there. I don't know. Either way, I might check it out when things kind of die down. But again, it's free right now, or this afternoon is when it opens up. According to Hawaii News Now article, a lot of the officials are expecting it to be very, very busy. So plan, not only that, but yeah, plan accordingly. Don't get frustrated if you see the crowd. We're telling you now, if you plan to check out the rail today through the 4th of July when it's free, again, there might be crowds. So just wait.
C'est la vie, my friends.
Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot going on today on this Alooooha Friday. All right. So getting to our NBA free agency, Paul. Bum, bum, bum. So probably one of the, again, we were saying James Harden, probably the latest is obviously they're working on a trade from the 76ers. He's opted in to his $35.6 million deal for next season. So they're working on the trade, and the latest rumors, well, I haven't checked it recently this morning, but yesterday I was seeing, and that's why it made me chuckle, that tweet from Adrian Wojnarowski where it had the Clippers and the Knicks, and I'm like, really? Oh, the irony of that it's the Clippers of the Knicks.
Like, I laughed. I saw so many different memes from Knicks fans being like, me? Us? Because not only are the 76ers like in our division, on top of that, you already have Jalen Brunson, who is a smaller scoring guard, who is not necessarily known for his defense. I don't know how a James Harden, Jalen Brunson backcourt works, but I will say that there's something that makes far more sense to me, and that is a 3-team deal between the Knicks, Clippers, and 76ers. That sends James Harden to the Clippers, that sends Paul George to New York, and it sends assets to 76ers.
Whoa.
I can explain.
Now you're just talking crazy there.
I can explain. Because the report came out that the Clippers don't want to give up their young players, which typically when you're trading for a star, you have to give up some young guys and some draft picks.
It still breaks my heart on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Well, exactly. If that's the case that the Clippers want to go down, and they don't necessarily have as many first-round picks that they can send out. If they wanted to get a third team involved, Paul George is 33 going on 34, somebody who is, he can play anywhere from 40 to 70 games a season. You don't know if he's going to be there. He's played very few games. Maybe if the Clippers want to pivot and go a different direction, the Knicks are always big game hunting, always looking for a star. The Knicks have some assets that they can send out and actually really need to send out, because what the Knicks need to do right now is consolidate their assets. They have too many young guys who are about to get to the point where they need to get paid along with a bunch of picks. They got to make a move, essentially, or they need to shift it so they have those assets into the future. That's my tinfoil hat, where it would make sense because you got to move money anyway, and if you're not going to give up your depth and other pieces, then why not try and flip Paul George, because I love Paul George, by the way. This is me fanning out. I love Paul George. Kawhi Leonard is objectively better at basketball.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's
just,
younger.
Right.
He's like, well, not by a lot.
Not
maybe
by
like
a ton,
2-3 years or something. Which is
better.
so crazy. I can't, even when they talk about Lionel Messi, and I always forget that he's only 36. And I'm like, gosh, and he already has to play.
Forever.
He has to play for Major League Soccer already. That's where all these really good players obviously go to retire. Well, now there's here Saudi Arabia. But, like, nonetheless, I'm like, but he's still, in normal people land, that's still very young. And you think about these athletes, like when we talk about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and they're already in their 30s, like early and mid-30s, and it's already like, well, are they even going to play because they could get injured? Already assuming, like, thinking that they're like as old as Chris Paul when they're not. So it's just it's just crazy in professional sports world.
You fall out of your prime just like that. It really is incredible, because both of them are on the backside of their prime, or approaching the backside of their prime. So I don't know. Like I said, tinfoil hat would be fun just because blockbuster trades are fun, and also, I don't think it's realistically going to happen, because I think the point of adding James Harden to the Clippers would be to add him to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, because that gives you the big three. I mean, that's just what the NBA is about nowadays. It's about the big three, even though the new CBA is going to try and change that. That's what it's about.
Yeah, actually, we didn't even talk about the new CBA, which has a lot of
676 pages, by the way.
I know, but some of the interesting, because this week has been a lot about talking about gambling, and the interesting thing with that is, well, one, they can invest in a WNBA team that's not owned by an NBA owner, and then two, they can invest in sports books company. It's very, very small, and like at the sports book company, they have to have a voting type of share in those companies, which makes sense. And then WNBA, again, I think it's up to 5%, but it has to be. So they couldn't invest in Monumental, which owns the Wizards and the Mystics. It has to be one of the independent, like the Aces. So they could invest in the Aces if they wanted to. So I think that's really, really cool that in the new CBA, because a lot of these times, and I wish, it's basketball, but we talk about football a lot, and how these guys just you're just sacrificing your body, and it's good to have these options for these guys to what happens after their playing career, in order for them to create that generational wealth, and where we don't see them all right, I thought you made a lot of money, and then now it's gone, which has happened multiple times, especially in basketball.
All of the time.
Yeah, especially in basketball. So it's cool that they're giving them these options, because you only have, it's really rare to have your Kobe Bryants and your Magic Johnsons, LeBron James, who pretty much from the moment that they started, they were already thinking of all right, how am I going to invest my money so that I can keep making more money after my career's over? So I think that's pretty cool that they're putting it out there. Hopefully a lot of these players are really thinking about it. Now, granted, if you're not one of the higher paid players, you probably won't be able to afford those really, even though it's only 1% to 5%, that's still, especially if you want to invest in the Aces, that team's going to be worth a lot of money, considering. Yeah. I know that's another dagger for Paul right now. Yeah, so sorry.
I was going to say that was purposeful.
Shout out Aces. I didn't plan it that way, actually. All right. On that note, just so you can kind of take your breath there, we're going to step aside as well and be back on Wake Up in the Den.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brex on this Alooooha Friday / our YouTube Friday show. Maybe I should call it a Fashion Friday. So right now I'm sporting my Village t-shirt, the brand of Rocky Savainaya, who joined us back in the day. It takes a village on the back, and then the brand new-ish Chaminade Silver Swords hat. So for those that are going to watch on YouTube or watching on YouTube, it has the new logo for the Chaminade Silver Swords, which is specifically for their athletics program, because if you didn't know, it was the like most programs, they have a school logo and they have an athletics logo. So Chaminade, for the longest time, including obviously when I was there, the school logo was the athletics logo, which is a cute logo. You know, it's like a sword that's kind of blended with the plant, which is what a silver sword is. And like, it's cool. But now they officially have an athletics logo. So it's this C. So I'm donning the new hat for the Chaminade Silver Sword. So that's our Fashion Friday, even though your girl like really doesn't have any fashion. So this is my fashion. But yeah, nonetheless, this is what we're sporting today for our Fashion Friday. And as we mentioned, Paul, do like a little modeling thing over there with your Knicks. Yep, there you go. He's modeling his Knicks thing as it is the free agency coming up for the NBA. So yeah.
Yeah, no. Shout out my girlfriend for this shirt. Most comfortable Knicks shirt that I own. Brand new. But no. I noticed right away when I walked in this morning, the cap that you got on is pretty snazzy. The new Chaminade logo is they start off their baseball program. Obviously, we had our chat with Josiah Villa of the basketball program last week. And, some good things on the way for the Silver Swords. I am glad they updated the logo because, like you said, while the school one is cute, it's not what you're going for in sports. Yeah. We don't want cute.
You want this, like, more... It kind of almost reminds me of, like, as if it was, like, a tiger type of sea. Like, that's what the sea kind of reminds me of. But nonetheless, it's this blue sea that looks a lot stronger than the
and
nice
then shout out Rocky for sure because, once again, he was kind enough with his time to come hang out with us. And then also the merchandise that he has is just dope. So, He is my type of style too, Koo. I'm not a fashionista the way they try and keep up with other things, but we're still rocking
that's
out.
Why it'll be funny. We're just coming up with all of our different themes. Like I said, we have Alooooha Friday, YouTube Friday. Although maybe it's not so much YouTube Friday because sometimes when we have our in-studio guests, that's the video that we put on YouTube instead of the show because you guys will see us all the time. We want you to be able to see our guests that are in studio. And actually, if you're watching it right now, this might be the last time that you see us in this studio. So either by this week or next week, will be the last time that you guys see us in this studio. So yeah, thanks for being along for the ride. And yeah, you'll see what comes next in a different looking studio by the either 2 videos from now or whatnot around there. You guys will see a different view, which will be really, really exciting. And we will have new systems in place. We don't know how seamless that's going to go for a little bit, but it's okay, where we don't have to worry about forgetting cameras. So we will have new things in place. It's so exciting. I'm stoked. So we kind of are rocking and rolling this July, trying to get more guests in studio. It is July, so as promised, I'm going to effort getting a few football coaches / the official boss of the team. Well, maybe second after Timmy, Savannah Ryer, director of recruitment. So we'll try to effort having a lot of them in because July is almost like their one off month until they go into training. So we got to try to
their darkness retreats to watch a bunch of film and all that.
Pretty much. So July, I think only like the first 3 weeks they have somewhat off. Although Timmy is like never really off. Like when I was talking to his wife Sherry, I guess they're planning to go to a concert in the Big Island or something, and
that's his off day.
No, it's not, because he was like, "Oh, I think there's something," and he was basically like, "Maybe I can squeeze in." I don't know if I don't think it was like visiting a kid or something, but it was something to do with still working.
That's so funny. There's never a day off. Though you said chatting with the wife. That's the real leader of the program, right?
And she's taking care of the 5 kids. So
well, I was going to say, when I was at some of the spring practices, I saw the kids running around sometimes. I'm like, oof. There's a lot that goes into being a head coach. There's probably more that goes into being a head coach's wife.
Shout out Sherry Chang, the leader of the Chang gang that takes care of all the behind-the-scenes stuff going on. She's also wonderful and really spearheads our sisterhood social that we have going on for all of you ladies come August 19th. So you'll be able to meet and talk to Sherry, but she's really making a lot of stuff happen. So not only taking care of the household, but she's a big driving force of planning such a good and like big event that the Sisterhood Social is. So yeah, got to give her a shout out. I don't think we do it enough and she's amazing. Like, probably because she's Canadian. So I've never met a bad Canadian. They're all nice.
That's spot on.
So,
every single one of that I've met. It's actually crazy. And I lived next to the border for like most of my life.
Like, you don't really meet any bad Canadians. So I'm like, yeah, there's probably a little bit of what it is, but maybe I got to go dig through the files a little bit, because I did interview her last year, and she talked a little bit about, you know, how her and Timmy met, and it's like a really funny story when he was playing in the CFL back then. So maybe I'll play that for all the beautiful people, so you can kind of hear that little story. It'll be like a little throwback with Sherry Chang.
You can do a throwback Thursday clip or something like that.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. Anyways, sorry, I digress.
Producing on the show.
Yeah. Getting back on track, talking a little more NBA. I saw this come across, though. This is via The Athletic, Paul. This is a scenario for you if Harden's going to the Knicks. So Harden would go to the Knicks, but the Sixers would get R.J. Barrett, Josh Hart, Emmanuel Quickly, and Dallas's 2024 first.
I'm all the way out. That is
like, no
who suggests that?
It's someone on the. Let's see who wrote this article.
If that's Fred Katz, I need to talk to Fred.
It says Zach Harper and Shams.
Okay, then I'm fine. The Knicks beat reporter is Fred Katz. Fred Katz is phenomenal. I love Fred. If Fred was the one who suggested that, I was gonna be like, What are we watching here?
They just have like different scenarios on what certain trades would look like. They have one that says Harden to Boston would just be a straight trade with Jaylen Brown, and
that
the
makes
Celtics
sense.
get Harden. That would be interesting to see. They have Harden to Miami, and in parentheses they have get this man a ring. Sixers would get Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and the Heat would get Harden. Can you imagine like James Harden being there with the Heat, like just adding, and then assuming you get Tyler Hero back 100% healthy.
It'd be interesting. It'd definitely be interesting. He's a Clipper, by the way. I have no inside sources to tell me this outside of James Harden wants to be a Clipper. I know that. That has been reported. In today's NBA, in the NBA, if a star player wants to go somewhere, usually the other team is the one that's going to figure out how to get them there. So, get my guess today, June 30th at 8:28 Hawaii time. I think James Harden will be a Clipper in the coming week.
Okay. Their scenario with that trade, again, this is via The Athletic, for Harden to become a Clipper. See, this is where it would gut punch me, because the Sixers would get Paul George, Norman Powell, and Marcus Morris Sr. And then the Rockets would get... Wait, how come it says Harden becomes a Clipper, and then the Rockets get Harden, Tobias Harris, and then they tried to trade Harris, but then they're moving him back to the Clippers. Sixers get George.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. When it came across the ticker that he being James Harden was opting in, and that him and the Sixers were working towards a trade to send him to his next location, it sent shockwaves through because of things like that, where you're like, oh, there are so many different possibilities, because it's not like Bradley Beal where there's a no trade clause. So like the 76ers are in control here. James can say where he wants to go, but whoever offers the best deal, that's who the Sixers are going to partake in business with, you know. It's fun because it means a lot of different movement after the fact as well, or before the fact, I guess, because a lot of teams have to posture themselves in ways if they do want to acquire a contract as big as what James is going to demand, and what it's going to take to put a team around. Because no team that is not competing for a championship is going to want to trade for James Harden right now. I think. I think a team who is,
because you're just strictly in rebuild mode,
right?
You know, you're
he's
just
a move that
out.
you take and you want to go over the top with, and that's why I think it makes sense for the Clippers, because it gives you that added punch on offense, and it's why I'm not totally sure about sending out Paul George in any type of deal for Harden, but It all depends on money, because that's why I brought up the CBA in our last segment, because this new CBA mentioned is 676 pages. That's a lot of different things for all and I lovingly call them cap nerds, by the way. I know I say nerds a lot, but they are incredibly intelligent people.
Oh, you have to. And then you need them on both sides to make sure everything is going accordingly for the owners and for the players.
So they've had 48 hours to learn this entire new CBA. I guess they still have 3.5 hours to finish learning it, even though you and I and every NBA fan knows that deals have already started to be, or have already been agreed to. They're just waiting for free agency to officially open.
Yeah, because this new CBA would go into effect tomorrow, actually, July 1st. So like Paul mentioned, 676-page agreement. Actually, I believe it has, coming out this morning. That's right. Oh, no, it did come out. That they're officially signed is for 7 years, meaning through the 2029 and the 2030 season, though either side can opt out a year early by declaring its intention to do so by October 15th, 2028. So they agreed in principle on the new deal, and here we go. We're going to just get a whole another round, which, by the way, speaking of it being June 30th, I don't think we saw a Pac-12 media rights deal come through, right?
I have not seen anything come across
Today was
the
the deadline. We talked about it earlier this week about San Diego State and the whole, no, I didn't say that, yes, you did, scenario between San Diego State and the Mountain West. San Diego State mainly waiting to be officially invited by the Pac-12. Pac-12 mainly trying to get a media rights deal done to actually figure out whether or not adding San Diego State would give them more money in the media rights deal. Because at the end of the day, if you're not going to get more money from a media rights partner if you add San Diego State, then what's the point in adding them? Because then now you're just going to have to split the money with another school when you can just keep it with your, USC and UCLA will be departed. So you have less schools to split with. So if you're not going to get a bigger deal, there's no point in inviting another school right now, because that's going to cut into like your OG Pac-12 schools, and you don't want to share with another school if you can get a bigger cut. So that's kind of that's what I'm thinking is the thought process, is why the Pac-12 hasn't invited San Diego State, because they're working on their media rights deal. And again, if you can't get more money, then what's the point in inviting another school? Because you don't want to split. Then it takes more money out of the other school's pocket. So San Diego State is just waiting in limbo.
And I guess that's why they didn't officially put in their resignation. And for people not watching the YouTube, I quote, you gave the air quotes to didn't put in their resignation, because, things out of their control, I think was the exact phrase. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I would feel very stressed if I was a San Diego State fan, just because...
Well, more of just the powers that be at San Diego State, because you don't even...
They're always stressed. That's just part of the job. But, yeah, I don't know. It definitely is... It's coming down to the wire if it has not already struck midnight,
Yeah, that just hit me in mid-thought when we were talking about NBA free agency, the new CBA going into effect, and now I'm like, oh yeah, it's the end of the month when we're supposed to know what's going to happen with the Pac-12 media rights as it has to deal with San Diego State and where they will end up, because as the last interactions, it seems like the Mountain West has decided that San Diego State is officially on the way out after this season, so yeah. We'll just have to see what happens.
We will be seeing you.
Speaking of the NCAA football stuff, this happened during the week, and I know yesterday we talked a lot about the new NCAA rules. So one of the interesting things that we haven't gotten to is the foreseeable clash between the NIL thing that a lot of state lawmakers are making their own state laws and basically telling schools that their state laws will trump the NCAA rules and regulations as it deals with the NIL. So we're going to talk about that. And when we come back on Wake Up in the Den.
to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht on this happy Alooooha Friday / NBA Free Agency Friday / Pac-12 Media Rights Friday / Fashion Friday. As if you guys missed our show or the beginning of the show-ish, Fridays obviously are traditionally our YouTube shows, so you can catch this show on YouTube either a little later today or over the weekend. I am being as fashionable as I can because, yeah, I'm not really that fashionable, but sporting my shirt from the Village via Rocky Savainaya, former University of Hawaii lineman, and also rocking the new Chaminade hat with the logo on, their new athletics logo. And yeah, you guys will be, I don't know if it's available in stores yet, but we got it from Chaminade themselves, so it'll be fun. And then Paul over here rocking the Knicks for the NBA. Yeah. His comfortable shirt, he said. Comfortable shirt.
It is the most comfortable shirt I own.
Another thing as well, happy Skyline Friday. As we mentioned, another thing in the beginning of the show, if you missed it, the rail officially opens today at 2 o'clock p.m. So all 9 stations will open precisely at 2 p.m. and rides will be free from today through July 4th. And it says to some of the officials say just to be mindful of which side you're going up. So I know if a lot of people have not ever rode like a subway or whatnot, you have to make sure you are on the right side of the track that you're going. You can't just go up one stairs and be like, wait a minute, how do I get to the other one? There's no way to go to the other side and cross the track. So make sure you're going up the correct side so that you're on the right dock and know which way you're going. So I know a lot of Hawaii people generally maybe have not gone all the way to like a New York or Chicago where they have their systems in place. So just be mindful of that and yeah, have some fun. It's free. After that, you have to pay or get one of those holo cards. So enjoy. I'll probably check it out when it dies down. Like I said, if it went all the way to Ala Moana, or it's supposed to, original plan was supposed to kind of be one of the stations were going to be right behind one of the condos that I live in, which would have been awesome. Because then I think one of the other stations stopped like down the road from my home in Waipahu. I'm like, that would have been the dream. Even my parents were stoked, like, oh, we can just hop on the rail and like come visit you. And yeah, now it's, but it's okay. Maybe one day it'll get that far, when they finally listen to me and make sports betting legal here, where we can like tax the bejesus out of all of that stuff, out of that money, and build our rail, But what are you gonna do?
Oh well, you're gonna listen to Ku'ulei soon enough. That's what we know.
It's betting legal.
They will. I got a feeling. It's coming in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
It's funny, my mom texted me that because we were talking about how there's no restrooms and whatever, and she texted me about that they had to put like a sign outside their restaurant because one of the platform areas that you can go up is like right in front of their restaurant in Waipahu, so no public restrooms. So I think you'll start to see a lot of any of the restaurants or businesses that are close by where any of the 9 station points are along the track will be like, no public restrooms, don't come here. But it really won't be that bad. Like, we're okay, people. It's all good. And then if anything, when it comes to Ala Moana, you can always get off at Ala Moana and go use the restroom. Or when there's the new stadium, maybe they'll make restrooms out there. I don't know.
There has to be out
Dare
there,
to
I'm
dream.
sure.
All right, getting back on track to the sports. Like I mentioned, with the NCAA new policies, basically, well, not really new policies, but the NCAA is trying to double down and make their rules tougher, even go through the federal government to make sure there is a blanket of consistency across the board so that we don't have this like every school do whatever they want and yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But it'll be interesting because several states, including Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, recently passed laws that conflict with the NCAA rules, including those related to schools' interactions with collectives, boosters, and business-driven organizations that have formed to pool resources and NIL opportunities for athletes at various schools and can be promoted in limited ways by the schools. So basically, all these states are telling their schools that we can do whatever they want. Like, the NCAA can't hold us down or punish us even if we break the NCAA rules and regulations. This makes me chuckle because I'm like, but you're still like part of the organization. It's almost like, it's kind of like when we saw for a little bit of time when we started to see marijuana become legal in some states. And if you played for like the NBA, and if you worked or played in a state that it was legal, you still weren't able to do it because you're employed by the NBA. Like, you have to. So I'm like, I don't understand some of these states that are like, no. Like, state law always trumps organizational law. It's like, no. Don't get me wrong. I think the NCAA did this to themselves because they didn't try to work to establish rules in the first place. They just kind of, once the Supreme Court was like, yeah, no, you can't do that, they were like, all right, everyone, and now they're trying to backtrack. So they did this to themselves. But it's interesting that some of these states think they can just do whatever they want because it's like, okay, cool. Like, Arkansas had a really good basketball team. All right, Arkansas, you're not going to be in the NCAA men's basketball tournament anymore because you're not part of the NCAA. So you're more than welcome to do your own thing. You just won't be part of certain things in the NCAA. So it's hard for me to believe that this will hold weight, but the only unfortunate thing is that, you know, some of these states are just so full of themselves that there's going to be all these lawsuits. It's going to waste time. It's going to waste money. And at the end of the day, it's all about the student athletes. And I think as long as they can still continue to make some money, I think it's just, we're at this weird, like, extreme limbo where everything is going to correct itself eventually. But what we're seeing is, like, insane.
It's the adjustment period, and that's you're right. The NCAA did this to themselves in terms of not having a pretty nailed down plan for the NIL, and then kind of just going hands off once the Supreme Court went through with whatnot. I don't know how long it's going to take for everything to get adjusted, because I think we're going to see many cases like it where, like you said, these schools, these programs, organizations, states, whatever, are very full of themselves. And I actually heard this quote yesterday. I thought it was good in terms of a lot of times ego supersedes intelligence. And what they meant by that was that you can be as smart, you can know as much as possible and yada yada yada, but at the end of the day, like, sometimes your ego takes over, and if your ego is too big, you are too full of yourself, you're too, you know, I am untouchable, then bad decisions can still be made no matter how smart you are. And that's what I see with these states, where it's like, yeah, you can make all your state laws and state rules and be like, yeah, we don't have to listen to the NCAA.
Yeah.
Like, what? This is law. This is the law in our state. Like, you want us to go against the law? No. But it is by choice that you are a part of the NCAA.
Yeah.
Like, that is your choice, that you are a member of this organization, this association. If you wish to leave and you don't want to be a part, that is absolutely fine. That is absolutely your call. You are just left to deal with the consequences afterwards.
Can you imagine? Because Texas football is finally, like, on its way up, and they have
just leave.
Well, not leave, but they're like, oh no, we're just gonna do whatever we want, and then the NCAA like comes out with sanctions, and then they're like, wait, what? What do you mean we can't? What?
No bowls.
It's like
No
they'd
bowl
be
games.
like, what do you mean? This was our year. We're supposed to make it into the playoff, and it's like, well, you wanted to break the rules, so that's what happens when you break the rules. You're more than welcome to play Arkansas or Oklahoma, you know.
Yeah, you can play these teams still,
like,
but
it's cool.
just not for anything of consequence. That's the thing, because, and agree with it or not, the NCAA at the end of the day will try their very best to make it as even a playing field in terms of competition as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in terms of what schools can do, they're going to try their best to make sure that it is a pretty blanket and uniform set of rules.
And that's the point, right? That's the part that a lot of these like schools, again, that are full of themselves, or the states that are full of themselves, the NCAA is here to make sure that things are as fair as possible, knowing that schools like your Hawai'i, or maybe some of your smaller like SEC schools, like even though you have the Power 5 conferences, you still have the upper echelon of schools in the Power 5 and the lower. And the NCAA needs to make sure they kind of keep it somewhat like fair, like not give any school that big of a competitive advantage that they already do. So at the end of the day, that's what it's for. It's not them trying to restrict how athletes can earn money. It has nothing to do with that. They gave in. They're like, yeah, athletes can make money. It's cool. But now it just becomes, hey, wait a minute, you guys are like putting way too much into. I mean, we see it in professional sports,
that's where
except
I was
for
going.
baseball. Like,
but
that's
even
why
in
they're
baseball,
capped.
it's there. There you have the luxury
The
tax in baseball, and you see it in all professional sports where all of these, like market size was actually where I was going to go with it, where you see bigger markets a lot of times have more money to spend, but that, especially I think of in the MLB, especially how that has been gone away from, where the Yankees, where they just outspent everybody for years and years and years.
Now you have the Mets instead.
Well, but that's not a viable option anymore. Where the Yankees were winning a lot of times, where they were spending in the 90s, they were spending in the early 2000s. The Met, like, I mean, look at, I believe the teams first, third, and fourth in payroll this year are under 500 in terms of record. That's crazy. But also, at the end of the day, you're trying to create a competitive balance, and that is the number one thing when you have a competition in general. I was going to say sports, but just competition in general is you want a fair playing field, because that is what makes... It's what we love about competition, is that everybody's got a chance on any given day. It's not that way if you just kind of let the wild, wild west be the wild, wild west.
Yeah, we want to keep seeing like the NCAA, mainly the men's basketball tournament, be how it is, where you have these crazy upsets. You know, like, wow, where did this happen? You want to make sure that some of these other schools can compete with the bigger schools, and that's what makes the tournament really, really fun. I think that's what, you know, it's nothing to do with like what's better basketball to watch. It's entertainment, right? And LSU on the women's side made it entertaining, but for the most part, the women's tournament, until you get to like the Final Four, isn't as interesting, because the favorites always win. Where on the men's side, you're like, you got the 16s upsetting the ones, and it just becomes so fascinating to watch. And that's what you don't want to get away from, especially now with the expansion of the college football playoff. Like, you want to make sure it's somewhat competitive amongst all the schools, because again, the media rights, you want the eyeballs watching. No one wants to watch if you're just going to see like, all right, let's see Texas and Oklahoma all over again. Like, great.
They want to see new teams sometimes. Like, it's the same reason that people got upset when it was Cavs Warriors for 33 straight NBA finals. You know, at some point you want to see new teams in there, new franchises, new programs, new faces, new stories. That's
Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl.
Love. Exactly. We love in sports, as much as we love competition, we love stories. And you don't get that when it's just the same over and over and over again. It becomes stale.
Although I think the only fans that would disagree with us are like Lakers and Celtics fans. I think they could watch that series over and over and over and over and over again.
I could not care less about their opinions.
All right, we'll be back to close out the show on Wake Up in the Den.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Never stop dreaming. It's funny, I see my text thread going through all of some of us ladies are going to go check out the lay stand tomorrow. So pretty excited. They're trying to like figure out our ride plans. If you guys never heard of the Lay Stand, it's co-owned by Ryan Kalei-Suji, who you guys are probably familiar with on the Spectrum volleyball broadcast. So it's in downtown, so I've never been, so I'm pretty excited to go check out that place. Although, I'm like, is it the kind of places with really expensive cocktails? So I'm a very simple, like, a very simple drinker. I like beer, wine, and sometimes like whatever liquor I feel like either tequila, whiskey, or having a vodka martini or something. And so the last week we went to a one of those like mix, or what do they call them? Like those mixologist type of places.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
actually shout out to one of my friends because he came up with the best quote. He's like, because it's like $30 a drink basically.
Yeah.
And so he's like $1 drink, $29 worth of friends. Because we're like, wow, that's a lot of money for a drink. And he's like, no, it's a $1 cocktail, $29 worth of friends. But yeah, that's one of those like, okay, I'll go there every once in a while, and like I'm very, very, as you guys can tell by my fashion choices, that's just like my beverages when I go out is like, I just want, beer, and usually like a simple beer. Like I'm just a Pilsner. I got into the whole craft beer for a little while, but you can only drink like one or two of those and then you're just full. Or I tend to get Asian glow a lot faster when I drink the IPAs or something. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I just get really red after one or two. So I got to stick to kind of the lighter Pilsner lager type of beers. Yeah. Or just your good old straight up vodka martini. And, but so we'll see how it is at the Lay Stand. It's more atmosphere. You're going to go hang again. My $29 worth of friends. The drinks are only $1.
Drinks are only $1, and you're going to hang out with friends for the rest of the price, and that's always the best. I'm more of a wine guy myself anyway. I'm not a big specialty drinker as well, mostly because I don't need to be, and also because, like you said, I don't need to spend that much on friends,
I like my $10 or less friends.
They are really, really good friends for a nice cheap price.
Yeah, $10. Well, actually, if you go out though, the funny thing is because I buy like wine all the time, so I know how much like certain bottles of wine cost in the store. So it always feels great. I'm being sarcastic. It always feels great when I go to a restaurant and then you order a glass of that particular wine and that one glass costs about the same amount as the bottle that you can buy in the store.
Yep.
But it's usually a wine I really like. So I'm like, okay. And this is I wish I didn't buy as many bottles of wine that I do so I know certain prices. I'm like, dang, I can get this. I guess like buying a beer too. You can get like,
yeah, it's same vein. I mean, alcohol prices are normally just price gouging as it is, like,
which is fine. It's not a necessity,
yeah.
So
no,
it's cool.
and it should. And you're right.
Yeah.
It should be more expensive because it's not a necessity, and on top of that, it can be something that is actually detrimental should you have too much. So
yeah,
you should be discouraged from having too much.
And again, no judgment to any of you that like to go and enjoy like the $1 cocktail, $29 worth of friends regularly. If you have the means to go out and have at it, like that much disposable income, like go on with your bad self and enjoy the fun. And a lot of the price too goes into, because the bartenders, like, they really put a lot of thought and like the highest quality ingredients into it, and they do like this whole show, and like that's why part of it is why it's so expensive, instead of like, all right, here's the keg and let me pour some beer in it and there you go, there's $5 please.
No, and that's the thing, it's an art form for them, and it's a cool art form nonetheless. I went out the other night and I watched somebody make a drink, and I was just like, that is cool, like all of the steps that go into it, because I don't know, as I've gotten older, I've begun to learn to appreciate like all different types of talents and skills and walks of life, like even the ones that as a kid I thought were menial or smaller, I look at now and I'm like, that is cool. And life is just way better that way. Like it's way more enjoyable to walk around and be like, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you can do that.
Yeah.
That's a positivity, always positivity in the den, even as we're ending up the week here on this Alooooha Friday, Fashion Friday, YouTube Friday, Rail Friday.
With a little STS.
STS, Friday, STS.
Everybody. STS. I feel like if we say it too fast, it might sound like so. That just hit me. I'm like, we can't say it too fast. People will be like, what did they just spell? No. Keep it clean here.
Jeez, I'm criminy, you folks.
Get your heads out of the gutter, everybody.
NBA free agency starting later today.
Yeah,
Very
it's gonna get a
excited
little. It's
for
gonna
it.
get a little loopy. I think that's what's going on, and I'm like sweating
Well, I was
right now.
gonna
I
say,
think with the heat's getting to us
Just that we're
again.
at a mid-heat stroke here to end out the show on Friday. Oh, man.
I don't think our camera's a little too far where you can't see like the drops of
Good,
sweat on
thank
Paul
God.
and I. But again, like if you guys are watching this, shout out and mahalo to all of you guys that watch us on the YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe. But this might be the last, or definitely at the very least, the second to the last time you see us in here with this setup. So it'll be exciting to kind of, we'll be in a new studio. Make sure you follow us on social media and we'll give you the inside scoop at High Sports Radio. Well, gotta go. For Paul Brecht, I'm Kule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. It's been Wake Up in the Den.